Welcome everyone to another performance clinic, deployment automation and self-healing with Dynatrace and Ansible. Today I'm joined by my colleague Jürgen Etzlstorfer. Hi Jürgen.
Hi everyone. Hi Andy.
Hi. We're in the same room even though we have two different cameras. The way this works, as always, Jürgen will walk us through the slides and also a live demo, which I believe will be the centerpiece of all of this. Everyone can ask questions using the question feature of GoToWebinar. So please type in the questions. I will moderate and I will throw the questions over to Jürgen if I think it makes sense right now. Otherwise, we have dedicated time at the end for Q&A. As I said, everything is recorded. So in case you have to drop out early or if you want to tell your colleagues or friends about it, you can also watch the recording. Having that said, Jürgen, I will cut my video stream. Please, you keep yours open as you walk through the slides and just enlighten us about deployment automation and self-healing with Dynatrace.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Andy, for having me. I'm here working as a technology strategist here at Dynatrace, and today I want to talk a little bit about deployment automation and self-healing with Dynatrace and Ansible, and we will see how all these like 4 different pieces here will work together in the next couple of minutes during this performance clinic. I just want to start with a little bit of a kind of the background why we really need these 2 topics and why today I'm going to talk about this. What we see is that infrastructure is really dynamic. We see that, for example, containers, they come and go. We have a lot of different types of technologies involved, and therefore there is a big need for automation for deployment. And another need is we need automated or assisted remediation in case of failures. If we just take a look at these 82 different types of technologies involved in just one single transaction, it's really complicated and just cumbersome. And for one manual or for one human, it's really complicated to dig into all these technologies and find the errors. So we might need some assistance here, and this is what we are going to see today. So let's first dig into the topic of deployment automation. And here, automation is really the key for really tackling these challenges nowadays. And what we've seen is that Ansible is a quite good tool for automating. So with Ansible, you can automate the provisioning, the configuration management, application deployment. You can automate a lot of different things with a little set of instructions they call a playbook. So in a playbook, you write some YAML code. It's kind of human readable. It's a little bit of documentation and a program combined. So it's really easy to understand what's going on in this kind of playbooks. And as it's written here, the tasks defined in this playbook, they are executed in an order, and it can scale pretty well. So what you can do is to just execute or to write the playbook and then execute these playbooks on hundreds of hosts in parallel. Ansible doesn't rely on agents, on the hosts where you are executing the tasks, but instead via SSH, it's connecting to this host and then executing the statements there. And on top of Ansible, there is another tool called Ansible Tower, and this is really the management platform for Ansible. So you have a couple of APIs. Basically, it's really a rich APIs where you can do a lot of the management on top of your playbooks. You have user management, you have rule-based access control, you have inventories, you have really a broad possibilities to manage your playbooks.
Cool. So Jürgen, thanks for that. And I think one question that I always get, and that was also confusing to me, I always thought Ansible and Ansible Tower are the same things, but they are actually 2 different things.
Yes.
Right? Just that this is clear. Ansible, as far as I understand now, is all about automation, deployment automation. As you said, using SSH, so no agents required on the individual hosts to deploy things or make configuration changes. And then Ansible Tower is really a management layer on top that then, enables things like the integration we'll see later on to execute workflows, other remediation workflows, and so on.
Yes, exactly. So Ansible, you can also get it just on your machine and execute your playbooks on your machine. But if it gets a little bit more complex and you work together in a team and you want to really do some collaboration, then you might need something on top of it. And we will see kind of both. But the integration for Dynatrace is obviously the Ansible Tower because it provides its APIs.
Perfect.
And then Ansible also has this concept of roles. And for Dynatrace, we have a great role where you can roll out the Dynatrace OneAgent. And this role is available in the Ansible Galaxy. So this is kind of a store for Ansible roles. It's not a store that you have to pay for it, but you just go there and you can get details on all the different roles they are out there, and then you can just install them and you can use them in your Ansible playbooks. So it's really easy to use them. And actually, I have a small example here for a playbook. So if you want to, for example, roll out the Dynatrace OneAgent with Ansible playbook, then you just define on which hosts you want to roll out the OneAgent. Here, we just call this group of hosts, we call them web servers. So they can be like 5 or maybe 100 web servers, but they are all defined in the same group. And we have just one task here, which includes a role, which is called Dynatrace OneAgent. And this needs some variables. And here it's basically only the installer script. So with this simple script here, which is also kind of self-explaining, we can roll out the OneAgent to all the web servers we are managing with Ansible. And just if you're wondering how to get the installer script URL, that's basically just copying the URL from your usual deployment screen where you usually start when you want to deploy the Dynatrace OneAgent.
Cool. Hey, just because questions are coming in, the first question that came in is why Ansible and not SaltStack, Puppet, or Chef? And I guess the answer is it works just fine. It works pretty well. And also we have tried, I think I've tried also SaltStack. So there are different approaches where you can do this. Ansible was just, for me, was a natural choice because it's really easy to use. They have a great community. But most of the approaches we show here, they are also applicable for other tools. But here we just want to use Ansible because it's widely available. They have a great community, and we have also a great integration between Ansible and Dynatrace. And if you want to learn more about Puppet, Chef, SaltStack, and Dynatrace, I think they are on GitHub, on the Dynatrace GitHub repo. We also have the Chef recipes and all the scripts for all the other tools, configuration management tools out there. And I think what's actually great in your slide that you have here, what you really see is the magic of Dynatrace, because in order to install the OneAgent, it only takes one download script and then one execution of that download, right, of that setup. And there's no other configuration. That's why you can automate that with anything, right, that allows you to download software and then just run a shell script.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So what you basically get from this really simple playbook is the full stack end-to-end visibility of your environment. So on all the hosts you're rolling out the OneAgent, you get automatically discovery of your processes, of your services, of your applications, and you get really a full insight into your environment. So that's pretty cool. You might want to use also other tools for this. It's just one example because also we have some great customer quotes how they use Ansible for rolling out the Dynatrace OneAgent. Basically I can just go there because they're right in the next slide. And so one customer provided us this quote. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to name the exact customer, but they are rolling out 900 agents in 5 minutes with Ansible. So that's pretty cool. It's just not possible doing this manually. And another customer, they are deploying Dynatrace to about 1,300 servers, also in just a couple of minutes. So this is not part of the demo because it would be just too much to roll out the Dynatrace agent to this size. But it's pretty cool that we can see also Dynatrace can easily scale up to these dimensions where we have hundreds or thousands of servers, and we roll out agents in just a couple of minutes. And what you get there is basically what you can see in Smartscape, just a really great picture of your whole environment, your processes, and your services and applications.
And for those folks that are new to Dynatrace, if you want to learn more about Dynatrace and the OneAgent, the basics, there's obviously documentation out there, but I also have a performance clinic, like one of these clinics on YouTube or on Dynatrace University, that gives you a quick intro in Dynatrace, how the OneAgent works, and why it really only takes a single download and no other configuration to actually get this full visibility. So if you are interested in that, use your favorite search engine on the internet and search for what is Dynatrace and how to get started. That's the performance clinic that covers the basics.
So this was basically the first part of deployment automation. So we've seen it's really easy to deploy the OneAgent on hundreds or thousands of hosts. And for the second part, we are assuming you already have the OneAgent on your hosts, and so this will be one of the basic building blocks, and then you will see how you can enable your applications to self-heal, or you can write how to write your own auto-remediation workflows for your applications. And I actually want to start with a kind of a workflow here. So it's a little bit animated, so I hope this goes through really well. So what we can see here is a nice small workflow, how Dynatrace and Ansible, or the automation tool of your choice, can work together. So in the beginning, we have really Dynatrace monitoring our environment, full stack, end-to-end visibility, and automatically also detecting anomalies. So with our great AI, we have our automated baselining, and if some anomalies for example, in error rates or failure rates in response times occur, then Dynatrace will create a problem ticket for us, and also Dynatrace will analyze the root cause of this problem. So you don't not only get your problem, but you also know what the root cause of this problem is. And then Dynatrace can send out a problem notification to the tool of your choice. So in this example, we sent this problem notification to Ansible Tower. And Ansible Tower takes this event and triggers a job. And we will see it in the demo later on. This job is basically executing a playbook in Ansible. And once this playbook is executed, we will see how the problem is then remediated. So this playbook is especially there for remediating problems that Dynatrace has detected. And also we have a very easy integration of Ansible Tower in Dynatrace. So basically you just navigate to your settings screen and the problem notifications. You enter the job URL here, and then you can trigger jobs in Ansible Tower. The images here might be a little bit too small, but we will see it in the demo right now. So I think for the demo, I also shut down my video.
Yeah, get a little more screen size. Yeah. And just as a reminder, you can go ahead. If you have any questions, put them into the question feature of GoToWebinar, right? You should have a little question window. There's already more questions coming in from Laurent and others, but I will put them to you probably later in the Q&A. But feel free to ask any questions.
So I hope now everyone can see this application called Sock Shop. It is originally developed from Weaveworks. It's the Weaveworks Sock Shop, and here we can see the Dynatrace version of it. So we played around a little bit and made our own version. It's kind of a fully functioning shop for buying socks. So I can just have a sock here, maybe not the damaged one, but maybe these are, I
think these socks need some self-healing too. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So, but if I think some socks here are really beautiful, then I can just take them and add them to my shopping cart. So I have 3 and now 4 items in the shopping cart, and I can also check out those socks. So we will see a little bit more of this application, but I also just want to show you where this application runs. So this application runs in Kubernetes, and it's programmed by a couple of microservices. So we can see the cart service, for example, which is dealing with really adding socks to the shopping cart. We have the front end. So we have all the different microservices here, and they are running quite well on our Kubernetes cluster. And for the demo, I also need some load to generate because I cannot only add socks to my shopping cart manually. So I just have a simple script, which is now adding more and more socks to my shopping cart. So right now I have about 6,000 socks in my cart for this particular user, and this should be fine. And we just have this load generation up and running in the background. What we can also see here in Dynatrace, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept of management zones, but I just selected the production management zone where I only see all my services from the production environment, because I'm right now more interested or only interested in the production environment. Mm-hmm. We can also take a look at the Smartscape. This was what I was talking about earlier. And here we can see it consists of these 8 processes, and we have the services on top of it. So the cart service, for example, might be somewhere here. The items controller is from the cart service, and this talks also to the database and to other services. So we have a nice picture of our application, and now we want to actually release a new feature in our application, and this feature is kind of a marketing campaign. So we want to release or we want to start a campaign where a specific percentage of our users gets kind of a gift in their shopping cart whenever they add a sock to their shopping cart. And as we know, Ansible or Ansible Tower is quite a cool tool for deployments and also configuration management. We do this configuration change right now from Ansible Tower. So I've prepared some templates here, and one is called Start Campaign. So we can start this promotional campaign, and also we can configure this campaign here. And I just defined it like, let's say 30% of their interactions, they now get this special gift in their shopping cart. And I click next here, and I launch the campaign.
So maybe if I can ask you, maybe you want to talk about this, but what I guess what you're doing here, you have a canary deployment. Is that right?
Actually, in this case, it's not a canary deployment, but we already have the shopping cart deployed in a version where it can accept at runtime configuration changes.
Oh, so feature flagging.
Yeah, it's something like a feature flag, but we are updating here the percentage of the items that are added to the shopping cart.
Perfect, cool. And that's then handled by, just out of curiosity, it's handled by the load balancer, or it's handled by the application itself?
By the application itself. So the application itself is capable of doing this. Mm-hmm. So we can see that this playbook was successfully executed. We can see it was first gathering some facts and then updated the percentage of promotion. Actually, we can also see this in Dynatrace. So if we go to the cards controller, we see there is a little bit of requests coming in. So it's all me and my little load balancer. And I can see there is one event. So we have made just one configuration change, and we can see it perfectly here that we have set the promotion rate to 30%. So the cool thing here is that with our deployment tool of our choice, which was Ansible Tower in this case, and our great monitoring, we can directly see here that we changed the configuration of one particular service. We have the timestamp here, and very special for this demo is we also have a remediation action here. And this remediation action is useful that it tells us, so if something goes wrong with this configuration change directly to the service here.
So just so that I get this right, you have an Ansible playbook that you executed that, let's say, a marketing team can execute, for instance, when they decide to flip a switch, right? When you execute that script, not only does it change the configuration in the app, but we also make Dynatrace aware of it. So whoever looks at Dynatrace at the monitoring data is aware of that change, on particularly that service where you made the change. And because of the best practice, not only do you have the change, but also a link back to a potential remediation action in case things go wrong.
Yes, exactly.
That's awesome.
So we, for example, in Ansible Tower, we can have the roles that only the marketing team can, for example, start specific campaigns. And here we have this concept of the management zone, so they only see which services are really affected, or it might not be the marketing team, but some developers that are really responsible for the operations also, and so we just look at the production specifics here.
Mm-hmm. And just because one question just came in from Kevin that fits perfectly, how was this implemented, the configuration change at runtime? Is this through a REST API? Is it through a JMX? Or how did you tell the app to?
It's a REST API.
It's a REST API.
Yes.
So classical feature flagging, REST API where you can change it.
Yes, it's a REST API, and also the Dynatrace API allows to send configuration events, deployment events to Dynatrace. So also this is done via a REST API.
Perfect, cool.
And while we were talking, actually Dynatrace created a problem for us. So we can see here a new problem was created.
I think Dynatrace detected the problem. I don't think that Dynatrace, hopefully
Yes.
it did a great one.
Exactly. So maybe I go only to the last 30 minutes. So Dynatrace detected a problem in the items controller. This was the service we were looking at. And we just click here, and what we see, so for the demo, I've created a custom threshold because I just wanted to trigger this one specific scenario. Mm-hmm. So we can see that our threshold of the error rate, the failure rate, increased and actually was exceeded. Mm-hmm. And since there were some questions here and this auto remediation is quite fast, we already see some comments on this problem. So while we were talking, the remediation playbook already started and actually already finished again. So let me now recap what was happening while we were talking. Mm-hmm. So what we can first see maybe I first show our great load generation script. So I just stopped it, and maybe I have to scroll up a little bit. So we can see in the background, we received some errors. Mm-hmm. Actually, the developers, they were not ready to ship the promotional campaign. So they just added an exception here, and they added nice words of some advice. The promotion campaign was actually not yet implemented, mm-hmm. But still the marketing team was not aware of it and triggered the error. So we can see that we triggered some errors in the background. We didn't look at the load balancer, so at the load generator.
So that means for 30% of the requests that the load generator was executing to simulate real user, we probably got this Java lang exception, meaning there was actually a problem out there because we wanted to show the promotion, but it wasn't ready yet, and therefore threw an error. And that's also what makes sense?
Exactly, yeah. Exactly. What we can also see here in our impacted service, we should be able to see the failure rate. It's already going down, but we can see it was going up to about 30%. We can see it here. We have exact 30% failure rate. Mm-hmm. So 30% of the calls, they generated an error. Mm-hmm. And Dynatrace detected this error. Dynatrace created the problem ticket. Basically, first it analyzed mm-hmm. The error, and then it created the problem ticket. This problem ticket was sent then to Ansible. Ansible Tower. I just want to show you here how this integration works. So if you go to settings and you're integrating some third-party system, we can take a look here at our Ansible Tower, and it's really easy. Basically, you just put in here your Ansible Tower job template URL, your credentials, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And then every time Dynatrace detects a problem, it will send a notification to Ansible Tower. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So and just for clearness, because I see the question coming in here, this works great for Ansible Tower. We have a built-in integration. We have also integrations for other tools out there, and we also have a generic integration where we can send we can call a custom webhook, any webhook basically out there in case a problem comes up. So an example would be if you have your Lambda functions, your Google Cloud functions, right? You can write whatever you want that is exposed to the webhook. You can just call it webhook, and then that webhook can also do that work.
Exactly. Actually, I started doing this integration and auto remediation with Ansible when we didn't even have the problem notification integration with Ansible Tower. Mm-hmm. So I used the custom webhook integration, and then I think it was in 2018 where we released the Ansible Tower logo integration also. Mm-hmm. And it just makes things easier, but you can always go with the custom integration and define your payload mm-hmm. manually.
That's perfect, cool.
So yeah, we've seen it's really easy integration. And also in Ansible Tower, we can take a look at what was happening. So we are selecting the jobs here, and actually we can see two remediations or two playbooks that were executed. So the first is the remediation playbook, and this playbook is more of a generic playbook. So it takes the problem notification and looks basically does a very small analysis of the problem and looks if there is a remediation action attached to this problem. Mm-hmm. And if it finds a remediation action for this problem in either the configuration change events or deployment events, then it will trigger this remediation action. And this remediation action was also an Ansible Tower playbook, and this was called the stop campaign. Mm-hmm. So when we set up the starting of a campaign, we also define if something goes wrong with this campaign, just stop it. Mm-hmm. And this is also, I guess, this is also what a human would do. You first stop the campaign and then give the developers some more time to investigate the issue. But in our example, this was done fully automatically, and actually it was so fast that we didn't even see it happen.
And I assume stop campaign in this case is just making another REST call to change the feature flag from 30% to 0, right?
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
Perfect.
It's very easy. So you can reuse a lot of things mm-hmm. When you're building this auto remediation mm-hmm. that you might already have in place. You just have to think which parts can be automated and which parts need some human intervention. Yeah. And since we have a lot of automation here, it's crucial, it's very important to also have some feedback loops. So let me show you how in Dynatrace we also got notified. You have already seen that we have on the problem itself, we have the, on the problem itself, we have the comments, mm-hmm. but also we will see a second configuration change event. So we can see just 3 minutes after we introduced the promotional campaign, we can see this was automatically set back to 0. So exactly, Andy, what you suggested, that we just set back the promotion rate back to 0. This was done via the Ansible Tower playbook. Mm-hmm. And we will see that it's going down. It just takes a little bit for Dynatrace to close the problem, since we also stopped the load generation in the background.
Yeah. So normally if load would continue, then this would be faster. So if I can recap this, Jürgen, quickly, if you can go back to the problem 510, right, the problem ticket, that means what you actually automated is what normally a human would do that follows, let's say, a runbook. So a human may sit there getting a notification on via Slack, via email, whatever it is. Then the human would then look into the problem ticket, seeing items controller has an issue, would probably click on it, right? If you could click on the items controller again. So it would navigate through the data and then would see, hey, the thing that actually happened just before the error rate went up was a configuration change event, and somebody actually provided the remediation action. And then the human may click on it. But basically what you did, you automated these steps in a separate generic runbook in Ansible Tower. So that's pretty cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So the exact steps you just said, they are in this more generic runbook, like going to the problem ticket, taking a look at all the events that happen. Is there some recent deployment? Is there some recent configuration change? Mm-hmm. Then taking a look at these deployments or configuration changes and looking for a remediation action. And if there's a remediation action, then go to this remediation action. Mm-hmm. And in this action, then it's defined how to really treat this kind of problem.
That's pretty cool. And that also means, and I think this is probably now clear for the people that are listening, in order for this to work, all of the data that we have here in Dynatrace that is related with the problem or with the entities like the services, the deployment events, this is all accessible through the REST API, because we're triggering your generic Ansible remediation script, and then this script can query more data about the actual problem and the components that are impacted.
Exactly. So all the automation in the background is done via the APIs. And so this is one reason why Ansible Tower and Dynatrace work so good together, because they both provide great APIs.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you.
I think we can consider this problem closed and can go just very briefly back to the slides. So, and I just want to also do a very short recap on the demo. So I can't see what's written in the first block here. It's somehow gone, but it should say we released a new feature in our application, or basically we did a configuration change, and then Dynatrace was monitoring our application all the time and detected some anomalies. So we have seen the increase of the failure rate in this particular example, and then Dynatrace was firing a problem and sending a notification to Ansible Tower. And here it starts and kicks off a playbook, checks for the latest deployments, and also for the configuration changes, looks for all the remediation scripts, and then executing the script, and the problem is finally remediated.
That's pretty cool.
So this is what we've seen in this short performance clinic here from my side, and I'm open for questions.
Yeah, maybe you want to quickly walk. I think there's some additional links. You want to quickly show those?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have also some great content out there, both on the Dynatrace blog and also on the Ansible blog. How to really set up and integrate your runbooks in Ansible Tower and Dynatrace. So just in case you might want to follow along, here's the Dynatrace blog and also the Ansible blog. Also, we have great content on the Ansible Galaxy. So there is a Dynatrace official organization with the official Dynatrace roles. And also we have some, recently we just put in there some other great content from the Dynatrace Innovation Lab, which is very useful for sending comments to Dynatrace problems, for sending deployment innovation, sending deployment events and configuration events to services. So these are basically in the Dynatrace Innovation Lab, and another just more roles for you to consume and to play with and to integrate in your stack.
Perfect. And again, if somebody may use some other tools out there for configuration management, then obviously just search for them with your favorite search engine. I'm pretty sure you'll find let's say the chef recipes or the Puppet scripts or whatever, or SaltStack, whatever else you use. So those are some examples with Lambda out there. I think the sky is the limit, because everything is API driven within Dynatrace. So everything they can call an API can obviously interact with Dynatrace in that way. So now I would love to actually, let's turn on the video camera again, and let's do some Q&A. The first question that actually came in that I waited a little bit until later, Laurent is asking, after the installation of OneAgent, so coming back to the deployment automation steps, is it also possible to put some tags on the host with Ansible? So that means when you deploy it, I already answered it if you want to, but maybe you want to quickly walk over to Dynatrace so that we see what Laurent was asking for.
You mean to
Dynatrace? Yeah. If you just we've seen different tags on the services, but what you can also do on the host level, if you go down to your hosts, then if you click on one of those, so Dynatrace is automatically picking up tag information from, let's say, your virtual machine provider or your cloud provider, like it's shown here. It seems to be running on Google Cloud. Yes. But what you can additionally do, the OneAgent is looking for a file that is called host.autotags.conf. So that means if you're rolling out new hosts, you can first write this file with name value pairs, and then the OneAgent will automatically pick it up. So an example would be, here's a host that belongs to the dev environment, to the stage, and to the prod environment. We can automatically convert tags or create tags. So there's a host auto tag conf, and there's a host custom prop conf, which will then pull out these name value pairs and make it available as metadata that you can then use for auto tagging. And then the tags, again, as you showed in the beginning, can be used for management zones, right?
Yes. So, actually, we use the tags in this example quite heavily, because also we tag the services. So you've only seen that we have the tags in, we only take a look at the production, but actually we have 3 environments here. So we have a dev, a production, and staging environment. And we were only looking at the production environment because we were triggering the error really in production.
Yeah.
But here we can also see how we worked here with tags. So, for example, this tagged this service belongs to one app, which is the cards app, and it's in production.
So then there's another question that's perfect. Can you go back to the screen you were just in, the transactions and services? Because I think this question kind of relates. The question is it possible to list the services that are expected to run on a host and automatically restart if they're missing, except during predefined maintenance periods? So I think this, what you just did, can you do the filter again on, let's say, a certain environment? Let's do environment production. I think there's no automated way where Dynatrace automatically restarts things. But what we can do, there's two things we can do. On a process level, so Dynatrace is the capability on a process level to say what's the minimum expected number of processes, and then you can also get an alert and a problem, which can then trigger a remediation script, right?
Yes.
The other thing, what you can do, you can always query, like this list here, right? You can see how many services are actually currently running in production, what type of services. So what I've been doing with customers is using this data as an environment health check. So for instance, on a regular basis from the outside, you can validate how many services are running. Are those services running that I expect to run? How many instances are running? And then you can use this information or this data to obviously then execute whatever scripts you want to execute. So hopefully this kind of answers this question. Anything else to add from your side? Sorry that I'm talking.
Maybe it's a little bit broadening this question, but it's also, as you said, we can use the Dynatrace API to query which services are running in which environment. Of course, we can also use kubectl or others. This one is running on Kubernetes, so we could also use their APIs or their tools. And for this example, what I just want to show you, because I have not showed it to you yet, we just look at the pods that are running in our production environment. And what we will see is they are running, some of them they're running for a couple of days. But for example, the cards service, the pod for the card service, it's running for 7 hours now. So I just made some changes today in the morning and then redeployed this card service. And so the triggering and the increase of the failure rate did not really, or it was not really, how can I say, Kubernetes was not really aware that we were increasing the failure rate of a service. So what we can see here is Kubernetes is great of restarting pods if the pod really fails and cannot serve anymore, or maybe it's running out of memory, or these types of errors. But if the error is really inside of the application, then Kubernetes is not really aware of it. So we need some monitoring on top of it.
So that's a very good point. So all these PaaS platforms like Kubernetes, OpenShift, Cloud Foundry, the default health mechanisms that they have is looking at the health on a pod from the outside. And that's CPU, memory, I don't know what else they do, right? They do some health checks, they have the health probes, but I think the default health probe is very basic.
Yes, it's basically looking for an endpoint and see if it's available. And the endpoint would still be available in our case because the health endpoint is not affected by the change. And it's a particular percentage of calls, of service calls, they are affected by the change we made in this example. So we can see that Kubernetes, although it's a very powerful platform, was not aware of this error we were triggering here.
And you are a well-known face, obviously, within our customers. So Mark, if you asked the question, so Mark is asking the question, has anyone done this with SaltStack? And are you familiar?
I think I have played with SaltStack also last year. Also, they provide great APIs, and I think I've also done an example there.
So actually, my answer would be, Mark, shall I Google this for you? Because I just did this in the background. If you Google or Bing or whatever your favorite search engine is, if you say Dynatrace SaltStack, you will actually find a GitHub repo of one of our colleagues, Adam Gardner, and there's a full example out there. So It's amazing what our search engines know.
That's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So if there's, feel free to put in any other questions. Another question that just comes in. Are there any best practices on getting started? Because if you build this, it's very hard to test because we always have to kind of simulate the problem in Dynatrace. What's the best practice to get starting on building and testing these auto remediations?
That's a good question because it's really not that easy to get started. But so what I did and what I always do is first you need to create this problem. So you might want to write some scripts where you can trigger the problem, and then you might want to send the Dynatrace problem notification just to a site where you can grab it, or where you can just where you have some debug information as well. In Ansible Tower, you also receive the payload of the Dynatrace problem notification, so you can just grab it from there. If you're using some other tool, today I was playing around with this webhook.site. Also, you can just paste in your URL you get from this tool, paste it in, add it to your Dynatrace problem notifications, and then send for example, here, just send a test notification. But also when Dynatrace detects a real problem, it will send the problem details to this webhook here, and then you have some payload which you can then use and play around with this payload. So you really know what a problem detail looks like, and then you can take this information and then start from there. So I think this is one very easy way to start. And also what's important when you're new to this topic, start with the more low-hanging fruits. So because engineers, sometimes we like over-engineering, making things more complicated as they really are. So starting with the more low-hanging fruits also allows us to treat in the beginning more the easier problems. Like here, just resetting the promotional campaign back to 0 is basically what we already had. Because you've seen that I set this on to 30% via the UI. So the playbook was already made that it takes some variables. So I can just reuse this playbook and then execute it again with the default 0% of the promotional campaign. So reusing things and more thinking about what are the more frequent issues, and from the frequent issues, what are the more easy ones to deal with in the beginning is really a good way to start. And then it might free up some time for you because you automated a lot of things, and then you can think about the more advanced problems.
Cool. Kevin is asking, how does the auto magic work of the OneAgent? I guess Kevin is maybe new to Dynatrace. So the agent, there's a lot of material out there how the OneAgent works. So you really just drop it on a host, and then we see everything from the host up the whole stack, including seeing automatically into Kubernetes, into every container. If you do not have access to the host, for Kubernetes and OpenShift, we have the operator, the OneAgent operator, where we automatically then get an agent loaded into the pods. And there's also other ways to get into Cloud Foundry. So this is all fully automated. And then, Kevin, as you say, we do automated bytecode instrumentation. So we support Java, .NET, PHP, Node, Go, all these technologies. Just check out some of the material. I suggest you search for what is Dynatrace and how to get started. That's one of my performance clinics where I explain the basics of Dynatrace, how it works. Jürgen, another thing that comes in, how do we prevent a loop of auto remediation scripts? So kind of like an auto remediation kicks in, another. How do we, what's the best practice here?
Yeah, that might be a common problem and very obvious question, but thanks for this question, because it's important to treat these questions and these problems. Actually, it's a combination of the things that I've shown. You might also have different kinds of auto remediation scripts. So it's not only maybe Ansible Tower, but it might also be, as Andy suggested, a Lambda function or SaltStack we've heard earlier in this performance clinic. So really feed the information back, what you've just done, feed it back to Dynatrace. So if you've done a configuration change, then provide us with a configuration change event, because you cannot really do auto remediation if there is no information on what to do. And you also might want to first analyze what has already been done. So if we take, again, a look here, so we can see first, we've seen there was a promotion rate change to 30%. Also, let me just go to the problem screen here. Then it seems like they are executed at the very same moment, but actually, first we told Dynatrace, okay, now we are starting. The remediation playbook now started, and it was just a couple of minutes ago. And once we have reached the final state of our remediation, we again post a comment and we tell Dynatrace the invoked remediation action successfully executed. Here we're not telling we remediated the problem, but we are telling Dynatrace, okay, we have gone through our playbook successfully. There was no error in the playbook. And now let's wait for a couple of minutes for Dynatrace to close the problem. As we also can see now, the problem is gone and it's closed. But we could then also, with some other remediation action, parse the comments also via the Dynatrace API. You get all the comments of a problem. You can take a look at these problems and you can see, oh, there was already some remediation going on 1 minute ago. Maybe just let's wait a couple of minutes, or via another REST call, get some more information on the failure rate of the service if it's already decreasing. So there is a couple of ways. And the important thing is really to have one central information hub where you store the information, what's really going on. And it turned out that comments and also events on the service are a really good way to do this because they are really related to the service and to the problem.
So that means we can use Dynatrace as kind of a state, keeping track of state on what's happening here. That's pretty cool. Another question that is more related to Kubernetes. Is there any way to export Kubernetes metrics to Dynatrace in a native way? So like pulling metrics in from Kubernetes?
Actually, there is the Kubernetes dashboard coming in what I've heard from product management. It should come early this year. Maybe there will be some great announcement next week at Perform. So there will be a great integration of Kubernetes. But what we already can see, if we take a look, for example, at the service here, we can see it's running on one pod here. It's the cards in production pod, and we can take a look, and we already see some information also from Kubernetes. For example, the container name, the base pod name, the full pod name, the namespace where it's running. So we already have some information directly from Kubernetes. We're fetching this directly from Kubernetes, and we can directly work with it. So what I've built here were some auto tagging rules that all the services are automatically tagged with the Kubernetes namespace. So we can see the card service, we can filter on the environment, which is the production environment. We also have the card service running in dev and in staging. And it would just be the difference that it's a different namespace on Kubernetes. So we already have the possibility to get some Kubernetes data. And for more Kubernetes metrics, there's a dashboard coming on.
And also maybe if you want to scroll down a little bit, you can actually see what type of metrics we have out of the box anyway. So from the process, we have all your JVM metrics, all your app server metrics, system metrics. So this is what OneAgent has out of the box. And then the OneAgent will be extended, as Jürgen just said, with pulling in additional metrics from Kubernetes soon. Now also, if you have any external data sources, we have a REST API where you can push data into Dynatrace, and we also have a plugin mechanism where you can basically write a plugin and then it pulls data in. Thanks a lot for the material. The session will be available, Fadi, on Dynatrace University. So that's university.dynatrace.com, as well as on the Dynatrace YouTube channel. And thanks to Denise, that is typically, she's amazing with the turnaround, so typically a day, and then everything is up there. You talk a lot about, next question, you talk a lot about auto remediation. Could we have a button for manual remediation, like a reboot the Tomcat? I think this is something that people have asked. Yeah. Obviously, we have our agent already installed. Do you want to take a shot on this, or shall I?
You can do this. I also have some thoughts about this, but maybe.
So my thoughts are, I would love to have it too. I think the question is whether you see your monitoring tool as something that should also do tasks that other tools are better designed for, like for configuration management. That's why I believe we want to kind of be the platform that can then trigger the right tools to do these actions. Now there are thoughts on how we can, for instance, these remediation action links that that Jürgen showed, right? They already show up in the UI. So you can actually see what should be done and then do it. But right now we're not providing manual things like process restart. There's also, some people might be concerned a little bit about the power that the OneAgent has if we can kill things. But we've heard this request before. And but right now my answer would be there's a lot of great tools out there, like Ansible, like Chef, like Puppet, like whatever else there is out there that you use for configuration management that we can trigger in case of a problem. That was my take on it.
Actually, there's also, last year I've written a blog post how, for example, you can do this with StackStorm. Mm-hmm. So there is no real button in Dynatrace, but with the same approach, you can write a very short StackStorm application where you can have auto remediation inside for restarting a process, for example. StackStorm is also open source tool, as Ansible is. So this is pretty cool. And a button would be awesome, but there are also easy ways to automate this with the approaches we have seen today.
Yeah. Next question is the same functionality also available for Docker Swarm?
Yes, because what we've seen here, we really were doing this auto remediation on the application level. So also when we were talking about Kubernetes, it was not really the job of Kubernetes doing the auto remediation, but basically it's your choice where you deploy your applications. And also Andy said a lot of great PaaS platforms out there. So you can do this same thing also for Docker Swarm.
And Mark, because I see the question comes from you again, my answer is actually the same as earlier. Let me Google this for you. If you Google for Dynatrace and Docker Swarm, the first entry is a link to a doc page in Dynatrace that actually also shows it how to deploy it on Docker Swarm, and then the rest, as Jürgen said, we get the full stack visibility, and then you can do the same great things. That's pretty cool. I think we've almost consumed the full hour. I would say if you could do me a favor, go back to the slides. I want to just have one quick word in the end. There's a lot of other resources out there. So folks, I know people have been asking where the recordings. The recordings all go to Dynatrace University, as you can see here, and also the Dynatrace Full Stack YouTube playlists. That's where also everything lands on YouTube. There's other things like the coffee breaks and the power demos of our colleague Daniel Carr. The podcast that we have. So check this out. Now, very big for us next week. Right? Jürgen, we're going to be in Vegas.
Yes, we are.
Hopefully a lot of other people will also be in Vegas. For those that can't be in Vegas, watch out for the recordings of the sessions. We also have we're doing podcasting live with Mark Tomlinson and with Brian Wilson. Wilfried will be there too. Awesome. Hopefully there's some folks on there. Jürgen, we will actually do hot days on day number 1. Right? What's your hot day, or what do you support?
I have 2 hot days. The first one is auto remediation with Ansible and ServiceNow. So we integrate a new tool, ServiceNow, also in this whole auto remediation workflow. It's a 4-hour workshop, so it's really a hands-on workshop going deep. And the second one is OpenShift. Dynatrace on OpenShift. Yeah, works great.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm doing 2 sessions, the same session in the morning and in the afternoon, continuous performance with Jenkins on OpenShift. So, we're using OpenShift to deploy the same app that you at SockShop, and then we do some automated performance testing using the performance signature plugin in Jenkins and stuff like that. So, folks, check out our Perform event next week. Also, if you live in different regions around the world, check out the Dynatrace website for the regional events. I know Barcelona is coming up in May, and I'm pretty sure they will have another APEC regional series this year. The one was just completed at the end of last year, but there will be more. And with that, I want to say thank you, Jürgen.
Thank you, Andy.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
First performance clinic, but it was really fun.
Not the last.
Hopefully not the last.
Yeah. All right. Then thanks, everyone. Hopefully we'll see some of you next week. And see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.